Max Rich here. Today we're talking about some bossa, some Brazilian music. Bossa Nova, you might have heard of it. There are tons of famous guitar players and composers who have kind of made bossa nova like their life's work. You know, just off the top of my head, you can think of Baden Powell, Heitor Villa-Lobos, sort of like the giants of Brazilian music, you know. And this, in particular, this style, really, like most Brazilian styles, are like very, very rhythmic. And it's not your typical type of guitar rhythm in that you're playing, you know, not necessarily accented notes on the downbeat, you know, where if you think about it, it'd be like the accents are bum, 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 right, on the downbeat. This one, it kind of relates in a way to samba rhythms in which the upbeat, or like the and of each note, or the and of each beat, or the E and of each beat, you know, one E and two E and three E and four E and those are the notes that are accented a lot more commonly in Brazilian music. And bossa nova is really it kind of follows like a very specific pattern, and you can kind of think about this pattern in one of two ways. The first way we'll kind of cover is really like the most simplistic, basic way. We can do it with just dead notes. And what we're going to do, we're going to kind of try to break up our right hand, or our picking hand, into thumb and fingers. So I'm plucking with these fingers, right? These three fingers. And my thumb is hitting the bass string. Like that. But the rhythm that we're going to use sounds like that. And when you're dealing with bossa and samba and most other Brazilian dance rhythmic type music, you're usually in duple meter, which means that instead of your common 4/4, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're usually doing stuff in 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and it has all of a sudden immediately a lot dancier type of a feel. And if you think about that, it'd be like 1 and 2 E, 1 and 2 E, 1 E, da 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 da, right? And all of a sudden you have some type of rhythmic feel to it. And it's really pretty simple. I'm just all I'm doing is just hitting dead notes. So I'm kind of laying my fingers flat across the strings. And I'm just, for now, to practice the rhythm, just kind of hitting my thumb on the low string and then plucking dead notes on the top 3 strings. So 1 and 2 E, 1 and 2 E. Kind of like that. You can go ahead and take a chord. You can use any chord and practice this rhythm. But what we're going to do, just to start with, we're going to take a couple simplistic chords. Well, simplistic to play anyway. Brazilian music and bossa a lot of the time uses jazz type chords. You know, you're not going to be, most of the time you're not going to be doing like, you know, it's a little cheesy if you do it that way. Brazilian music really employs a lot of jazz harmony, and we don't have to get too involved in the theory behind the harmony. Just know that you're not typically using your standard major minor chords. You're almost always going to be using a 7th chord of some type, or like a 6 or a 9 chord. In this case, what we're about to do, we're going to use something called a 6/9 chord. And it's a pretty common chord, especially in jazz, and it's a great substitute for a major chord. So instead of maybe D major, we're going to play D6/9, which is still a D major chord, still form of a D major chord, but it has a few extra elements. And what we're doing, we're playing 5th fret, 5th string, and then we're barring 4th and 3rd string on the 4th fret, and getting the E with our ring finger on the 5th fret, and the high E with our pinky. So we end up with D, F sharp, B, E, and A. And if you analyze that real quickly, D would be the 1, the root note of the chord, F sharp would be the 3, B would be the 6, E would be the 9, and A would be the 5th. So this chord is called a D6-9. And you don't need to use your pinky. For this example I'm about to show you, we do use our pinky. But you could just play the 4 inner voices or the 4 inside strings. And we're going to just basically take that chord and shift it down 2 frets to get a C6-9. And that's basically all we're going to do, and go back and forth using that same rhythm, that one of 1 and 2 E, 1 and 2 E, and that kind of a feel. So it's going to sound like this. And it's a pretty simplistic idea. All we're doing, we're basically, the first time through, we're not even using our pinky really. We're playing the bass note and then the chord, just like we did. But this time, we break it up, so we play D and then the F sharp, B, and E, and then the next bass note is an A. So the bass goes And another important element to this is to make sure that you're doing the accents and the sort of articulation correctly. What I mean is not where everything's very long and drawn out. Bossa a lot of times tends to use sharp accented notes. So ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. That sort of a feel, right? And if I break that down really slow, and so the second time through, all we're doing is now switching. The bass stays the same, but instead of hitting with our 3 fingers, instead of hitting the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, we're just moving up now to the high 3 strings, and we're going to use our pinky. So the first time, and then drop down 2 frets, and then back up to the D6-9, except now we're using the top voices. Right there. And if you get used to that feel, it kind of builds in like a natural bossa rhythm into your body, you know? And that's sort of like the very base level of what you can do with bossa. From there, we're going to expand, and I'm going to talk about down-up rhythms, up-down rhythms, and basically how that relates to samba feel and how bossa is really a type of a samba feel. And then we're going to get into some more complicated examples of music. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll be well on your way to playing some bossa nova. So stick around.